Good morning, Jeremiah. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Lisa. I'm doing well, thanks.
Wonderful. I'd like to introduce to our viewers Jeremiah. He's the owner of JB Anderson Inspections. And I've partnered with him for quite a few years and have great respect for Jeremiah. And we're here today to talk a little bit about radon. Uh, Jeremiah, in the real estate world, radon's a big deal, right? And maybe you could give us a little background on what it is, and what those readings that might come out, what they mean.
Sure. So the radon is a gas. It's in the periodic table of elements as Rn is the symbol. So it's a real thing and it's colorless, it's odorless, and you're not going to smell it or taste it or know that it's there unless you have a radon test done. It's what people will call it, or I call it a measurement, because they're measuring how much is there. Because there's always going to be some in every home. It's just a matter of how much is there. And it was actually first discovered way back in the early turn of the century by Marie Curie. So they named it after the measurement units in a picocurie after her namesake, Marie Curie. And it's in the radioactive family. So it's measured in picocuries, which a lot of radioactive materials are. And the risk is exposure long term, right? If you live in a house for many, many years with exposure to that, you inhale it and it can damage your lungs. And in certain people, it can cause lung cancer. So everybody agrees it's bad. And then you mentioned how much in the real estate transaction. The United States, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, regulates it. And they say that in a home, you should have no more than 3.9 picocuries. So the magic number in real estate is 4, right? If it's 4.0 or above, then that's grounds for concern. And then I'll kind of turn it over to you on how you guys kind of negotiate sometimes on that. So
Right, right. I've heard somebody say before that granite countertops can emit radon. Is that a myth, or have you ever heard of that?
sure, I've heard of it, absolutely. And certainly they can. Whether or not it's a high enough level to be concerned about, I really don't believe it is.
Okay, okay. Are there any other signs or signals that you might have high radon in your home? Is there anything people can look for?
Really, it's invisible, so there's not much that you can see. But what I tell people is some of the elevated risk factors obviously are if you live in a home with a basement. All homes can have radon, of course, but a basement is an elevated risk factor. And then also homes that have a sump pump in them with the hole in the floor, right? If you've seen one, there's a hole in the floor in the basement with a pipe that leads directly to the outdoors, and that's on radon entry potential. And I'll segue into that with new homes that are built. I think you might have been able to touch on this, but new homes that are built have radon resistant construction in them. And that's one of the things that they do now is they put an airtight sealed cover on that sump pump on all new construction homes, among other things.
Mm, very interesting. And it comes from the ground. It's just a natural thing. I mean, natural element, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it, yeah, it's not like from their building materials or something like that.
No, no. And if you really want to get into it, like I do, the EPA has maps that you can look up online of the whole United States, and they're color coded for the radon risk potential. And you'll see certain parts of the country have higher risks than others. The state of Minnesota, the whole state is in what's categorized as a high risk area.
Hmm. I did not realize that part. Interesting. Oh, so what can people do? Like, let's say that I have you out and you do a radon test, and my readings are over the 4.0, and I want to, do something about it. What can I do? Move?
Sure.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So there are companies that specialize in getting rid of radon, and they install what's called a radon mitigation system, which is a fancy word just to say radon removal. And so what they'll do on a system in Minnesota, what I'm used to seeing, is if there's a sump pump, they put another pipe in that hole in the floor, and they seal it off with an airtight cover, replace that open cover with an airtight run, and run that pipe either up and outside. And if there's a garage that's attached, they like to run that pipe because it's about a 3-inch diameter pipe. And a lot of people don't want to see that running outside the side of their home and up through the side of their house, because it has to go up all the way above the roof line. And then there's a fan in that pipe, and it's constantly pulling air pressure. So the idea is, its technical term is sub-slab depressurization. But what that means is it's going to grab any radon underneath the house and get rid of it before it gets into the home. And if there's an attached garage, which I mentioned just a minute ago, they will run that pipe out into the garage and then up through the roof of the garage. That way there's no exposed pipe on the outside of the house.
Interesting. So you actually did a radon test at our house several years ago, and it was great. How often do you think people should test for radon?
Yeah. So the EPA does provide us some guidance on that. And what they say is there's a couple factors. First one would be if there's any major ground disturbances nearby your home, you should do a radon test afterwards. Second of all is if you have an area of your home that was in the basement and it was not finished and now you changed it to finished livable area, you should do a test. And then the last one is kind of the general catch-all, which says every 2 to 3 years, you should not also do a follow-up test.
Oh, that's interesting. I know that you did an inspection for a client not too long ago, and the average readings were lower than the EPA's, 4.0. But she was still a little concerned and wanted to keep an eye on it. You gave her a good referral for, what was that again?
Yeah, I can touch on that, sure. So when we set up a real estate test for a real estate transaction, we do a continuous radon monitor, or a CRM, and it's going to take one reading every hour for 48 hours is the minimum test cycle. And then we look at the average over the 48 hours. So we could have some readings that are in the 2.3 and 3.4 picocuries or even above 4. But if we have other ones that are below, then we look at the average of all of those. And in some circumstances, we end up with an average radon concentration that could be, 2.5 to 3.5-ish, and that sometimes is a little uncomfortable for people. So there's two options, and what I referred them to in this case was a whole house monitoring system, and it's just about the size of a smoke detector, and it mounts on the wall. And you would put it in the lowest livable level, and it's going to monitor and provide a digital readout. And there's actually even an app you can put on your phone if you want to read it a little more in depth, but it's just kind of a green or a red little light. And then you can look into it a little deeper and it'll tell you what the readings have been in your home. And you can know that then it's a constant all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
You're very knowledgeable. I love working with you, partnering with you, and helping our clients. And for any of our viewers that want to know more about JB Anderson Inspections, we have a blog from last April on our website, homesbyash.com, that gives you a little more information about JB Anderson Inspections. Jeremiah, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about radon?
What I was hoping I could just mention real briefly too was the option also that when we do a radon measurement for anybody, and let's say they come back with an average radon concentration of 3.9, because it happens sometimes. So that's right on the edge, right? Because 4.0 and above is considered elevated. So if we do the radon measurement, our company, JB Anderson Inspections, has a radon protection plan warranty through a third-party warranty company. So in those cases where the radon measurement is just maybe a little bit too high, but not quite high enough to be at that 4.0 picocuries, if we come back and do another radon measurement within 120 days, and it comes back above 4.0 or higher, then the radon mitigation system, the cost is paid for by the warranty company.
That's
so
amazing.
That's a little extra peace of mind for people when they're kind of on the edge of that number.
Good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.